In my personal opinion, Guild Wars 2 has the best festivals compared to every other video game out there. Throughout the year, we see incredible pieces of content become available to play for a short period, coinciding with real-world events and holidays. And because I love them so much, and because I love making videos like these, I want to go through each of Guild Wars 2's festivals and go over my top 10 favorite activities or minigames that you can find throughout all of the festivals. I am excluding Super Adventure Box from this list because identifying unique activities within this festival is a bit weirder compared to others, and if I were to look at each zone as an individual activity, for example, this entire video would be about Super Adventure Box, since it is my favorite festival and I am obsessed with it. Anyways, let's get started. In the number 10 spot is Toypocalypse. This is a fun 1 to 5 player activity during Wintersday. This is a tower defense-esque minigame where you have the massive area inside of Tixx's Infinarium. In the center, you have 5 Daliacs, and your objective is to defend them from waves and waves of encroaching toys that spawn all around the outer edges. You can kill toys with a few different weapons that you can pick up, but you can also use those weapons to destroy the little diorama decorations around the map to gather scraps and snow that can be used to build and upgrade a variety of defenses. You can build ballistae, catapults, snowmen, and snow barriers. On top of that, you can recruit script mercenaries and also use mortars in select spots around the map. As someone who is a casual fan of tower defense games, I love this game mode. The community has come up with optimal placements and strategies, but coming in here and just wailing away at toys and decorations with friends while coming up with strategies for where to build things is fun. Like I mentioned earlier, you can do this by yourself or up to 5 players. There's a public lobby option where you can just hop into a game, or you can make a party and play in a private instance, where I always have a ton of fun two-manning this activity with my fiance when Wintersday rolls around. Of course, having a full group makes it easier, but it can be a lot more engaging if you challenge yourself. In the number 9 spot is Tixx's Infinarium. In the exact same area as Toypocalypse, we have this 5-player dungeon, where a lot of ideas that I said about Toypocalypse with low manning this is also true here, where you can challenge yourself by doing this by yourself, but it's definitely easier with a full group. Where this is a 5-player festive dungeon, which I think is super fun. Having pieces of instance content that are locked to festivals is something that I love a lot and may or may not be something we see a couple more times in this video. Where this instance is pretty linear and straightforward, where there are a set of trials to do and objectives to complete as you run around this area helping Tixx deal with all the toys and manufacturing issues going on here. You have Toxx as a final boss who you have to reset by just dealing a lot of damage. In the number 8 spot is the Celestial Challenge. This is the primary PvE activity from Lunar New Year, where a fun thing here is that Lunar New Year used to be a festival that was kind of just bare bones and was basically the smallest of the 6 festivals, but they slowly added some more activities to it, and this one really fleshed out the festival and it is really fun. Basically, you join into a public instance that takes place in the central plaza of Divinity's Reach, and there are 12 different activities that correspond to the 12 different Celestials. To highlight a few, Horse's Challenge requires you to race around the map and you have a fun gallop ability. Dragon's Challenge requires you to basically fly around the map, gathering motes. Rat's Challenge requires you to scurry around the map and bring back cheese to the start. And Snake's Challenge requires you to slither around the map to gather motes. Basically, the entire content loop of this activity is incredibly enthralling, where you can just join in, get given a simple, short and fun activity one after another, and just play until you want to stop. Where there is a natural stopping point every few rounds where you can get some rewards, but it continues on shortly after, where I just have a lot of fun playing this for long durations. The activities, as I said, are simple, short and fun, so they are slightly riveting while being very relaxing to do. In the number 7 spot is Mad Keen's Labyrinth. This is a huge activity that ultimately is basically just a special area that has a lot of different things in it. This is a special open world-esque map that is available during Shadow of the Mad Keen, where this is a massive labyrinth that has a ton of different mobs around it, as well as doors that periodically appear that spawn 3 different types of events, a few veteran mobs, a massive amounts of simple mobs, or a boss. Where each specific door is always the same, and players will often group up into large groups and just cycle around the map together. Some groups are pretty casual and will slowly wander around and interact with all the doors, where some groups take this pretty seriously and will optimize their time here to get a lot of gold, and this ends up being a really good and fun gold farm, where the content loop of this entire activity is a lot of fun and the vibes of this entire area is incredible. On top of all that, there are a variety of other things going on here. Pumpkins you can carve, candy corn you can mine, a few different achievements, and a cool race adventure. Where overall, I think it's super fun to just have an open world-esque zone available during a festival that you can hop into and explore. I also want to give a shout out to the Lunatic Inquisition honorable mention, which takes place in an instance version of this map and is basically a large death tag activity that is surprisingly intricate. In the number 6 spot is Bell Choir. This is a really fun activity for Wintersday for the musically inclined. If you're someone who enjoys rhythm games, you may like this activity as it is Guild Wars 2's take on that genre. You spawn into an arena and you can play on a board with 2 other people. You can play one of 3 different parts of 6 different songs that you will be challenged against. You will have to play the proper bow notes as they are presented in front of you. Or this is just a pretty simple activity that can be a bit challenging for newer players, but once you get the hang of things, it is super relaxing and just an enjoyable experience. I really like the idea of combining 3 players who are playing bills together to make songs related to the Guild Wars universe. It also fits perfectly into the vibes of Wintersday and can also be decently rewarding if you're going for karma and Wintersday gifts. In the number 5 spot is Ascent to Madness. Similar to Tixx's Infinarium, this is a special festive instance dungeon, but this time during Shadow of the Mad King, and I definitely like it a bit more, which is why it is higher up on this list. Anyways, this instance is pretty similar to Tixx's Infinarium in a variety of ways, but is quite a bit shorter and has a higher focus on combat. At the start, you have to play Mad King Says as waves of Halloween creatures appear to attack you. Afterwards, Mad King Thorn will challenge you himself, and you begin fighting this super cool enemy. Where this fight is actually decently involved with a few different phases. You start on the highest part of these floating islands in the Mad King's realm, and you will have to carefully jump further and further down as you chase the Mad King. He has a few different abilities that you need to be careful of and deal with to ultimately defeat him and get some rewards. Where ultimately this instance is pretty easy, and if you come here with 5 people, it takes about 2 minutes to complete. But if you enjoy challenging yourself, you can low man this dungeon all the way down to soloing it. Where I like to come through here by myself and solo the instance whenever I am in the mood to do it. In the number 4 spot is Secret Lair of the Snowman. This is the last piece of festive instance group content I wanted to highlight. This is from the Wintersday Festival, just like Tixx's Infinarium, but unlike Tixx's Infinarium, this is a 10-player strike mission. And unlike Tixx's Infinarium, this is actually decently challenging, and you probably want a full squad of 10 as you come through here. Where you have a variety of obstacles to navigate through, snowmen to free, and enemies to defeat as you make your way to the final boss of Freezy. Where this is a pretty involved multi-phase boss with a variety of mechanics that you have to deal with to defeat him. Where this fight is genuinely fun, and I always love to do it every Wintersday. It is also definitely on the easy side of things and is a good piece of 10-player content for newer players to engage with. Which I want to take a moment to say how much I love these festive dungeons and raids, or strike missions if you will. I think having pieces of content that are special to certain festivals is a lot of fun, especially for a game like Guild Wars 2, where you won't ever have any important piece of progression locked behind them, and thus gated to one 3-week period every year. And I would love to see this continue forward with different festive themed ideas for the different festivals. In the number 3 spot is Queen's Gauntlet. This is an incredible piece of single player content from the Festival of the Four Winds, from the Queen's Jubilee side of the festival, where basically you have the massive Crown Pavilion arena, but up above the main area are a bunch of smaller arenas where individual players can challenge a variety of bosses to one-on-one combat. And there are quite a few bosses you can fight, ranging from super easy ones to super difficult ones that I haven't even beaten just yet, where I just love this so much. I loved pieces of difficult single player content in MMOs that take you away from other aspects of the game and allow you to fight engaging encounters where the only person you have to worry about is yourself, and the only person that you can blame is yourself. Where the fights here are pretty fun with a variety of mechanics that some people will enjoy and others will not enjoy depending on their personal taste. Where you definitely have to be a bit flexible as you progress through all the bosses, because having certain builds or individual skills is going to be important for certain bosses compared to others. But overall, I just love this entire activity, and I really hope we see something like this in a future expansion where it is a permanent, maybe more fleshed out, with better rewards and some incredibly difficult yet super fun and engaging bosses. In the number 2 spot is Mad King's Clocktower. As I say that, some people are saying absolutely, while others are saying absolutely not. This is a jumping puzzle from the Shadow of the Mad King Festival that is pretty challenging, especially if you're someone who doesn't enjoy jumping puzzles, which if you don't, you should probably avoid the frustration of doing this. But for me, as someone who loves jumping puzzles, this is just a lot of fun for me. And given the fact that I am relatively decent at jumping puzzles, and I've also done this particular one a lot, it is pretty easy nowadays for me. But I remember struggling so much with completing this puzzle for the first time, and was super excited and happy once I finally did. There are a variety of different jumps you have to make as you climb up the clock tower. The clock tower is spinning as you make your way up, and behind you, the toxic gas or whatever is slowly rising and will send you back to the start should it catch you. There are a few small chests along the way that you can collect. There's a fun bonus path that is harder but more fun that you can take. And at the end, you have a big jump that you have to time correctly to complete the puzzle and get your rewards. With a recent Shadow of the Mad King, we also now see an easier version of the puzzle where there is no time limit and you can make your way to the top as you please, but for less rewards. Or for someone who absolutely loves jumping puzzles and the movement mechanics of Guild Wars 2, this is just a phenomenal activity that I love a lot. But now for the number 1 spot. For my favorite activity in all of Guild Wars 2, and it has to go to Winter Wonderland. If you listened to me talk about the Mad King's Clock Tower in the previous spot, you knew this one was coming because this is the big jumping puzzle from the Wintersday festival, where the vibes and themes of this entire area are immaculate. At the start, you have 3 different paths you can take, an easier, a medium, and a harder one, where a good chunk of the way through the puzzle, the 3 paths converge for one final run to the giant present at the end of the puzzle that marks where you need to go to complete the puzzle and get your rewards. The final stretch is pretty fun and has some opportunities for advanced things that speedy players can do to make their way through the puzzle faster, but all 3 paths are pretty fun as well. I tend to do the easy and medium one once a year just to experience them, and then spend the rest of my time in here running through the hard one, where with each of them, similar to the final stretch, speedy and skilled jumpers can do some fun things to speed up their time through this entire area. But it is also fantastic to see 3 different paths of varying difficulty so players can approach this puzzle from the perspective of their own skill or personal interests. But throughout every festival, this is the activity that I spend the most time doing compared to any other than playing the entirety of Super Adventure Box every day that I can during the Super Adventure Festival. Winter Wonderland is just so much fun for me, can be pretty rewarding if you can reliably and quickly make it through the puzzle, and is my favorite festival activity in all of Guild Wars 2. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. There are a lot of festival activities in Guild Wars 2, including many different ones that I didn't highlight in this video. Everyone has different tastes and pieces of content that they enjoy doing, and I would love to hear what yours are down in the description below. If you like this video, consider watching my top 10 jumping puzzles video, since I talked a lot about jumping puzzles here, or maybe watch the fan trailer I made for Wintersday a year ago. I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.